growing up at that time in this town was a very hard thing to beat for the rest of our lives. It was an extremely good thing, and very, very different than it is now or when my children were growing up.
It was such a simpler time. After I was a cheerleader in high school. They didn't have buses to bring you home. If you missed the bus after school, that was it. So we often walked to Plainfield, picked up the 22 bus, dropped us off at Johnson Drive, and then I had to walk all the way up Hillcrest Road, down past Emerson Lane, and I do that 3 or 4 times a week.
This town really did a lot of good for the youth back then, and it still does today. But I'm just trying to compare. We would walk, ride our bikes all over town. We had, cousins, black at ours, who lived up on Sunlit. We have a lot of friends that lived over there, and we would just ride our bikes back and forth. And we'd walk. We'd have, during the summer, we would we'd go swimming in people's backyards. It was great. We'd just go over just Uncle John's house, swim over there. We'd come over to my mom and dad's house, swim there. Over to the Aldrich's house and swim there. And it was just good fun back then.
There was a grocery store, and it was really a general store. It had a soda fountain in it, candy counter, of course those I remember the most, but there were also vegetables, and they had a meat department in the butcher shop, like in the back section of it.
Well, the candy shop is what any kid would remember, the confectionery, and the Watchung Pharmacy. I actually broke my collarbone trying to get to the candy store, riding down Valley Road double on a bike, and wiped out and broke my collarbone.
We didn't have all the video games and all that kind of technology that's out there today, but we made our own fun. We would play softball in people's front yards. We'd play football, and if we had a small piece of someone's yard, that's where we would play.
Yeah, we would go to the movies up at Blue Star. When I was in that sort of pre-teen shopping phase, my best friend and I would go down to Front Street in Plainfield. Our parents would drop us off. We'd go to the movies there, go shopping until we spent whatever we had, and then walk home to Watchung.
On Sterling Road, on the corner of Dogwood Lane, which there's Valley View Road, and then the next road up is Dogwood Lane to the right. There was a little house which is still there, and it was like a little tea shop, and you could go there for watercress sandwiches and a cup of tea or whatever. And that was there for a long time. Then it became a residential house.
Well, across the street was the Guinard farm, and by the time I was a child, it was, of course, not being worked anymore, and it was all a big hayfield type of open area, but a great place to play. Mr. Guinard was a mean old man, and there were several instances with him, and one of them was a day when Frank decided he was going to go pick some apples, and there were apple trees right along the hedgerow between Mr. Guinard's property and the Schmidt's property, and they would go and they would pick stuff out of the trees they had left, but he knew that he was going over to Mr. Guinard's, and he knew that Mr. Guinard was a mean old man. So he started across the dam, and there was a pear tree there on the dam, and the pears were ready. So he had his burlap sack with him, and so he went and picked the pears, put them in the bag, and then he went off and snuck up to an apple tree that had some nice apples on it. So he climbed up into the tree and got all situated, and there's this voice from down below. And what are you doing up there, boy? And Frank said, I hadn't picked an apple yet, but I was caught. So Mr. Guinard says, you get down from there. So he took him by the ear and took him up to the magistrate's office. So he said, what do you know, what's the problem or something? And so Mr. Guinard says, well, I caught this boy red-handed stealing my apples. So Mr. Ivan said, let's take a look and see what's in the bag. So he dumps the bag out, and of course, just the pears came out. There were no apples in the pear. So Mr. Ivan said, you better you're going to get in a lot of trouble. You better get on home and leave this boy alone. I don't see an apple in there.
That's great.
And so Frank went back down and went back over to the tree and proceeded to take some more apples to fill up before he went home.
As kids, we'd be playing in the woods, and we'd be out in the neighborhood playing around, just doing things. And as I can remember, as they were building the houses going up Pine Lane, in the evenings when the regular construction workers left, us kids would take over. And we would build these little go-karts, so to speak. We'd go over to there was a dump behind the, I guess it was like where off the Hillcrest Road in the back there behind where the church was. There was this dump, and we would go there, and sure enough, we would find wheels from buggy carriages and stuff like that, and we'd get them and take them, and we would build these little go-karts out of old 2x4s and leftover pieces of plywood and small things. And of course, they didn't have brakes, and they didn't have steering, really. We just had a piece of rope to turn it back and forth, and we would, the oldest brothers and myself and a bunch of the cousins, all the neighbor kids, we'd get together and we would build these little go-karts, and we'd go down Pine Lane. Well, when Pine Lane stopped and turned into Fawn, we could barely make that turn. But a lot of scrapes, a lot of knees bruised, but we had, that was a lot of fun growing up, doing that kind of stuff, the little rascal stuff, if you want to call it that. It was good. We had one that my cousins and I put together. It would be Ricky and Tommy Aldridge and Mark Aldridge, and I'm sure there was Jeff Blackadar and a few others that we built, and we called it the Tank. And my cousin Tom, we kind of nailed him inside and pushed him down Pine Lane. And it hit a rock, flipped over, and the whole thing fell apart, and he had a lot of bruises. But this was all fun, good stuff that we did back then. It was good times.